Hi, everybody. Today I want to talk about why I didn't really care for Twin Peaks The Return, or Twin Peaks Season 3, if you will. Now, people tend to lose their mind when you mention this, especially on the internet. Um, I don't know why, but people do not like when you don't like this. But I don't. And I wanted to talk about it. I don't want to sound like highbrow or anything, but I feel like this is a case where when you watch really any art or experience any art, but especially watch TV or movies, that experience is singular to you, and that's what's cool about movies. Everybody goes out and watches this. Everybody has seen this show. Not everybody, but everyone. All these people are going and watching this as it premieres, right, week by week. But they're having singular experiences. So you know, so discussion about these kinds of things is really interesting and cool. And discussion is good and disagreement is good. And I always tell people I make these videos because, not because I want to lecture people, but I want people to comment and tell me how they feel. If they disagree with me, I want to know why. Having discussions about art is interesting because it can often change your perspective, or someone might give you some information you didn't know before, and you might view things in a different way. But on the same hand, kind of an oxymoron, like I said, that's a singular experience. So you don't really, you know, somebody liking this a lot and wanting you to like that is not going to change anything, right? Your experience is your experience, and I think you should embrace that. That's why art exists. That's kind of a esoteric weirdness, but that's in line with Lynch. But that's how I feel. There's two main reasons why I didn't really care for this. I'll tell you what they are right now briefly, and then I'll go more over it and explain it. The two main reasons are that this just didn't feel enough like Twin Peaks to me. And the second is that I felt that this was kind of cheap in a way. Now, I don't know what the budget was. I don't remember what they said it was. I just didn't think that it was as visually striking as other Lynch stuff I've seen. That's just my opinion. I know there's crazy looking things in here and very cool things that happen. But in terms of the overall movie composition or the television show composition, I wasn't really impressed with that aspect. Now there's certainly parts of the original run that don't look very good, and I kind of give it a pass a little bit, or they're in that bad stretch of season two. But yeah, I don't know. I'll explain. So when this came out, I was very excited. I knew it was going to get made when they said it wasn't going to get made, because they said they were going to do 9 episodes, and David Lynch said, I'm leaving. They're not paying me enough. It's done. At that point, I knew they're not going to let this go away, right? They're not going to let this slip the network. I think it was Showtime. So I knew pretty much at that point it was getting made. And sure enough, like a couple days later, correct me if I'm wrong, or a week or something, maybe 2 weeks, but it was a very short amount of time. And they said, yeah, it's going to happen. We've doubled the episode amount. It's 18 episodes now. It's going to be 18 hours long. So I was pretty excited. Now, when this came out, I watched the show with two people that really enjoyed Twin Peaks but haven't seen any other David Lynch films. And I don't think that they would have enjoyed any other David Lynch films, not their style. And I knew pretty much from the first episode that this wasn't going to be what I was looking for. They pretty much held out hope all the way up until around episode 9 or 10 or so, when we got to the halfway point, and then they kind of were like, oh yeah, there's no way that this is going to kick into gear. And I say that I kind of knew by the first episode, because this is definitely done in the style of Lynch in his movies, some of his stranger movies, his more surrealist movies. This whole thing is definitely surrealist, unhinged Lynch. Now, of course, David Frost also wrote this with him, but David Lynch directed all of these episodes. And what I thought the show was going to be like was more like Fire Walk with Me. Now, Twin Peaks to me is perfect because it's three really cool things. It's a detective noir, like a neo-noir sort of thing, goofy sort of things, with, you could lump the faux soap opera parody vibe in there, and surrealist horror. which is what Lynch is really known for. And the three of those things combined creates a really cool cocktail of a show. His movies, totally different bag, but really like his movies as well. And Fire Walk with Me kind of nixes that soap opera goofy vibe. It's a very serious, dark film, but Lynch makes great films, and I love that movie. I love what it did. I thought it was very good, and I think it's one of his best looking movies. I mean, beautiful. That was probably one of the first movies I saw of his where I thought, this guy is a really good director. And I don't just mean because of the content of the films, I mean because he gets movies as an art form. They are not just a product to him. That's why I like other directors like Paul Thomas Anderson. Completely different style, but these guys just get what makes a movie good. They very much care about the process. You know, the cinematography, the shot composition, the color grading, all of these things come together. This is not a product to be consumed. I mean, have you ever seen David Lynch talk about watching a movie on your phone? That's a funny one. That's how he feels about that kind of stuff. So I was kind of hoping for something like that. I knew it was going to get darker because of, you know, where he was at in his career, but I was kind of hoping for something like that. We get much further than that. And I just picked up on that vibe pretty early on. I've seen enough David Lynch things. When I was seeing the scenes, these vignette scenes, right? Kind of akin to like, not Wild at Heart, but Mulholland Drive, right? That's a movie where there is a plot, but a lot of the movie, the vehicle of the film, if you will, is these vignette scenes that may or may not be connected. That's a kind of a running thing through his movies that I like. It's kind of postmodern in a way, the way he plays around with how a movie should be told. And you get these scenes that are given to you with no context, really, so you're left confused and intrigued. And they're like little character pieces or art pieces in a way. And sometimes later on you get the answer. Sometimes that answer is very obfuscated through the storytelling, so it's hard, you have to really dig for that answer. Sometimes you don't get an answer, and it's really hard to know when you're viewing something, is this something that I really, really need to be focusing on through the runtime of this piece? But that adds to the intrigue. And that's what I started to get pretty much right away in Twin Peaks and The Return. Long, drawn-out scenes where the dialogue is so slow, unnaturally slow, and there are long pauses between all the dialogue. People tend to have a distant, removed tone, monotone, cold tone to their voice. Things feel very industrial and grim and cold. And that can be shown, too, through the set design, especially in the first season, or first episode, with the concrete room with the box and everything. So I like that stuff, but the whole show is missing what I feel makes Twin Peaks important, which is, well, A, Twin Peaks. Very little of the show actually takes place there. And I was actually okay with that, but it's just lacking the charm. And going back to my original point of this being an experience that is for you, it's interesting because sometimes I try to look at films objectively almost, and as if like this was the director's intent, so I should respect that intent, and I should watch this as I think his intent is. But that doesn't always work. You know what I mean? Sometimes it doesn't matter what his intent was. It's your experience of watching it. And that's kind of how I feel about this. I think two things with this. I think, and they're conflicting things. It doesn't make sense, but this is how I feel. Based on nothing, just my own thoughts. I think a lot of things that you see in this, and it especially makes more sense to me with the fact that he really wanted that extra running time of the show. A lot of this just feels like David Lynch's short film ideas, which are awesome. But it feels like I don't think he's a guy that gets super big funding as some other directors would. So when given the opportunity to make 18-hour-long episodes of whatever he wanted, no studio intervention, I feel like this would be a prime time for him to do some of his short film ideas and character pieces and ideas that he's had out there. And they're cool. A lot of them are really cool. Some of them don't work for me, but a lot of them are really cool. But then it feels like the Twin Peaks stuff is tacked on in a way. Like the characters that you see feel like cameos rather than organic characters that we're getting back to. The first time I saw all of these characters again, I thought, oh, awesome. It's so cool to see what they're up to. And it was great. But that to me, to be honest, wore thin pretty quickly because I just thought nothing's really going to progress in the plot. We're just going to get scenes where nothing really happens and the dialogue's going to be really slow. Oftentimes with no music behind it. That cool jazz soundtrack is not really present here. There is some cool music and sound design, a lot of which by David Lynch, but again, it feels more like a darker film that's not really related to this. So that's my big thing. And I know, going back to my point, that you could say, well, you just didn't get it, or that's not what he was trying to do. I understand that. He was successful in making this a very talked about show that was unlike anything that had ever been seen on TV, which mirrors what happened with the original show, which is more tame in comparison. But I think he was very successful, him and Frost, in getting that feeling back again. So for that, I think it's really cool. But it just doesn't work for me as a Twin Peaks thing. If Twin Peaks was removed from this, I feel like I would like it a lot more. It's very difficult for me to watch this personally, knowing it's Twin Peaks and seeing these characters and things not going the way I want. But on the other hand, I think David Lynch very much cares about Twin Peaks. I think there are some things in this that are a fuck you to like networks and things like that, and jokes to viewers maybe. But I do think he cares about Twin Peaks. Now, of course, not season 2. He's on the record saying that sucks. But if you've ever seen, there's a special feature in the Blu-ray where it's him talking with Mädchen Amick and Kyle MacLachlan about Twin Peaks and how he wrote this, and he just smiles the whole time and talks so lovingly. You could tell this is something he cares about. Dale Cooper is a character that like lives in him every day. He talks about how him and Mark wrote the script over the phone, and then how he went and stayed with Mark, and it just got me thinking of like, wow, what would have that been like? Just two buddies staying at each other's house, drinking coffee all night, and just working their ass off on this script together. That's a very collaborative, cool thing. So I think he really does care about this, but they just wanted to go with this in the direction they wanted to go. I respect that. Just didn't work for me. They took a lot of, and I say that this is kind of ironic, or this clashes with my thought that he just wanted to do short film stuff, because there is a lot of plot line in here from the movie Fire Walk with Me and the books. They took a lot, and in fact, I would say that you really should read the books before you view this, but absolutely the film. Most of the plot of this is stuff that is lifted straight from the Fire Walk with Me. And at first I thought, again, going back, I'm going all over the place with this, but at first I thought, oh, cool, they're going to do Fire Walk with Me stuff. I really dug the style of that, but not the cinematography style. The storytelling style is very different here. Yeah, there's not much more to say about that. That's just how I feel. And it's something that this show has been out for quite a while now. It's been out for 5 years. I've seen it a couple times, and that feeling just doesn't change. I've tried to watch it different ways. It just doesn't work. It doesn't. I want to say like I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. It's the way I view it, and I wish that I somehow I liked what they did with it, but I don't. And some certain things are a bit interesting to me, shocking almost. There's a lot of actual explanation. Now, it's not clear explanation, but it's more explanation almost, I feel, in the original series. When we got to see episode 8, which is very cool, by the way, it is a great episode, but there's a lot of stuff like showing almost like we're explaining the mythos of everything, kind of on the nose in a very Lynchian way. The golden orb with Laura in it, almost like the oracle held by the woman, and explaining where Judy comes from and showing Judy and all these sorts of things. It kind of ruins the mythos in a way. You want there to be some explanation for the plot to continue, but it felt like they were just telling too much. To me, that felt very hokey. The whole Tulpa thing, it didn't seem like it maybe in a film, but it just did not sit right with me. It felt like it was explaining too much. It removed that mystique from everything. Um, and what can you do? I don't know. I didn't write this, and I'm not a screenplay writer, but that's that. The other reason is that I just don't think this looks very good. And I had mentioned that I think Fire Walk with Me is incredible. Like I said, that's one of the first films I saw of his where I thought, wow, this is really good. What went into it? Um, Mulholland Drive as well. Now this, it just doesn't look very good to me. This was probably shot on digital, I would imagine. Um, David Lynch shot Inland Empire on handheld digital cameras, and that movie looks awful to me. He had an absolute reason for doing it the way he did. I just don't think it translated to a good looking movie. Maybe that was the point. Maybe he wanted you to feel uncomfortable. Maybe he wanted it to look surreal, but it just didn't work for me. It felt like a misstep, and it felt like, man, if only this movie was shot on film, I would probably enjoy it a lot more. Now, this certainly doesn't look as bad as that. This wasn't shot on handheld little video cameras, but um, it definitely has that cold digital style. I was kind of hoping that they would like transfer this to film and then back to digital or something. I don't really think that's the case here, though. I don't think David Lynch would do that, especially he said, "Oh, I'm never going back I'm using these handheld cameras the rest of my career," which he didn't, but thankfully. But yeah, I think that he's someone that likes this kind of style. I don't. It looks cold. Sometimes that's the point, that industrial feeling. But it just doesn't look very good, and the special effects are awful in this. Now, is that the point? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Certain things looking hokey and strange, kind of like the arm, right? The evolution of the arm, that tree with the brain on top. That looks goofy, but I think that's intentional. Now, that looks cool. I get that. But certain special effects, I don't get it. It just, they look bad. Even some gore effects, practical style effects. Man, some stuff just looks not good. Like they composited like digital blood or something in certain scenes. I don't know. It's hard to say because I know people are going to say, "How could you say that? Look at episode 8." Episode 8 is a different bag. That's a magnificent thing. But a lot of the show, I couldn't even enjoy the visual style. So I'm glad this exists, I will say. Like, again, if you told me, hey, David Lynch is going to come out with an 18-hour long short film marathon, I would be over the moon. But knowing what this is, it doesn't hit the same for me. But I'd rather it exist than not exist, I guess I could say. Yeah, I don't really have anything more to say about this. That's how I feel. It has never changed. It's kind of hard to watch Twin Peaks again and think kind of like, oh, I have to watch season 3 now, and I'm just not going to enjoy it that much. And I don't really. I just don't really watch it anymore when I'm doing my Twin Peaks viewing. I will watch certain scenes, but yeah. Let me know what you think, though. I know a lot of people absolutely love it and think it's amazing and what it did. So tell me why. Peace out.